Hello and welcome to this tier list of all the most common fears and phobias, where we will be ranking all of these fears and phobias according to how bad they are. And of course this tier list will be very personal, because everyone has different fears. So for example, if we start with the fear of doctors and dentists and needles and such, to me that's basically non-threatening, so that's not really a fear that I have. But then let's get into some more juicy stuff, such as the fear of death. The fear of death is of course very bad. However, I do think that the fact that our lives are finite, the fact that we die, is the thing that gives meaning to our lives. The only reason we really have to get out of bed in the morning is that we know that our time is limited, and if we waste this day, that the day will never come back. So I'm a huge proponent of the existence of the concept of death. However, the prospect of staring death in the face, that is very scary, knowing that you are now in this moment about to die or at risk of dying. That is very scary. So I am going to put it at the top of the frightening tier. By which I mean it is very bad, it is very frightening, but there are fears that are worse than death. Which brings us to the fear of spiders. I am so afraid of spiders. How to rank it though is really dependent on the size and type of the spider. The tiniest spiders that you can think of to me are basically no more than disconcerting. However, the worst spiders out there, to face those, that would be worse than death, probably worse than facing death. Maybe not in terms of consequences or rationality, but in terms of my fear response, that would be worse than death. However, that would be the very worst spider imaginable. When we go about thinking about general spiders, like big but not enormous, the typical spider I would be afraid of and would be reasonable for me to encounter, I think that would be in frightening tier, but let's say just below the fear of death, because I also don't want to make it seem like the fear of death is so tiny, because I know how scary spiders are. I've faced them often in my life, but I have not faced death really at all, so it may also be very much scarier than I anticipated to be. Then we go to the fear of insects, basically, so wasps, bugs, flies and such. I'm also scared of those, not as much as spiders though, but they're not far off, so I am going to put them in the high disturbing tier. Then we've got the fear of heights. Not really a fear that I personally really have. I do think heights are a bit disconcerting, but I don't really fear them that it would hamper me in my life or decisions really in any way. The fear of flying, that's basically non-threatening. The fact that I know that the chances of being in a plane crash are so much lower than, for example, being in a car crash, that really does comfort me. That really takes away a lot of the fear. Turbulence is a bit disconcerting though. I wouldn't say that it generates no fear response at all, so I guess I'll put it in the low disconcerting tier. Then we've got a doozy, the fear of failure. I think that may be my biggest fear, biggest issue as well. Fear of failure in this sense, as I'm treating it now, is basically the fear of being bad. Being bad both in the sense of quality, and being bad in a moral sense. So just either failing to perform adequately and also failing to do what is right. So just failing in general, doing wrong. Yeah, how can I even explain that? It's worse than the fear of death. I would rather die much younger and know that I have lived a good life according to myself and my own values. So good in the sense that I've performed well and good enough I've acted morally, than a long life full of failure, I guess. Even though I know that failure is inevitable and everyone fails on their path to doing good and being better and all that stuff, but I fear it. I hate it. I hate the thought of it, and I hate failing. So that is just horrifying. I think that is worse than death and spiders. Though death and spiders are pretty bad, so not a lot worse. Then we have claustrophobia, a fear of small spaces. I can get claustrophobic when I realize that I am basically stuck or not unable to go from a small space to a large space in a short amount of time. That does cause some anxiety, but I think flies and wasps generally cause more anxiety, so I'll put it in the low disturbing tier. Then we've got a fear of crowds. Not really a fear that I have. I think I would even put it in non-threatening. Yeah. Oh, and then there's another doozy, the fear of rejection. That's basically what I take it to mean here is all forms of social rejection. So in here there's the fear of public speaking, there's the fear of social anxiety, the fear of talking to other people, for example, of the opposite sex, the fear of intimacy. Any social rejection is this fear. That's very bad. That's very, very bad. I don't think I would put it above death, though. In terms of fear response, but it may also be true of the fear of failure. It causes so much anxiety, though. It's more than disturbing. I mean, all those things are things I'm afraid of. Public speaking and social anxiousness and fear of intimacy, it's all very real. So it has to be in frightening. Yeah. Oh, then there's the fear of blood, basically non-threatening to me, probably the least threatening. I think I'm more afraid of a needle. And then there's germophobia, so the fear of bacteria, I guess, and getting filthy and getting sick. People who know me know that I wash my hands often and rigorously. However, I have denied basically all accusations of either having OCD or a real germophobia, because I don't really do it out of a fear response. I do it because I dislike being dirty, dislike the thought of potentially getting sick and having filthy hands and such. But it's not because of fear. So and it's also not really compulsory. So I am not going to put this very high. But I suppose I'll recognize that I don't think it is non-threatening. So I'll guess I'll put it at the top of disconcerting, if that pleases us all. And the final one is, of course, the king of fear. It is fear of the unknown, the source of all fear, some would say. The fear of what would happen if this thing were to occur. Where shall we put fear of the unknown? Is it worse than spiders? I'm also afraid of spiders because of their unpredictability, their erratic movements, and I can't read their faces, don't know what they're thinking. It's also the unknown, but that's underlying there. Death, you fear death because it's unknown what will happen after that, what even is nothingness, to experience nothingness, for example. I have to put it in horrifying, I think. But personally, I think I have to put failure at the top. Yeah. I think I stand behind this tier list. Let me know in the comments always in which you disagree with me and how I should have put germophobia higher.